So Frenemies is ending. In case you don't know what Frenemies is a podcast between Trisha Paytas and Ethan Klein, both very popular and influential figures when it comes to YouTube entertainment. Recently, they announced that the podcast will be ending. I say they as in Trisha Paytas announced that she will no longer be a part of the podcast. I have a very strong opinion about this because I feel like Trisha Paytas is being extremely selfish when it comes to this topic. I do get where she's coming from, and I want to start this video by saying I respect her opinion and I am not coming after her. I'm simply showing my opinion on the subject and why I think that she's viewing this through a very closed and a very compact view that doesn't really fit what she's trying to say. First of all, let me talk about her video. This video was posted a couple hours ago, and in this video she mentioned that it's not about the money. She mentioned that she was frustrated at the fact that Ethan was gaslighting her, and let me refer to the term gaslighting very lightly because I don't think they know the definition of what gaslighting is. Gaslighting is a very serious topic, and I don't think they really understand the extent of which that means. Let me read you the definition of gaslighting. Gaslighting is a form of psychological abuse where a person or group makes someone question their sanity, perception of reality, or memories. People experiencing gaslighting often feel confused, anxious, and unable to trust themselves. That is completely not what happened with the Trisha Paytas situation. In this situation, Trisha Paytas is simply mad at the fact that she feels like she's bringing more than half of the show. She feels like she's contributing at least 50% of what the show is, which, let's just admit, is not true for various different reasons. First of all, let's begin by the most obvious fact, and that is that she is not the only star of the show. The show is with her and with Ethan Klein, both of which are very important parts of the show, and even if that, they are a 50-50 split. So right now we have Trisha Paytas on one side and Ethan Klein on the other. When viewing this directly, you should think, oh well, yeah, it may just be a 50-50 split. But it's not. If I were to divide it, I would give Trisha Paytas a 33.3% control of the show, a 33.3% attribution, if I may. I would give Ethan Klein another 33.3%, and then I would give the H3 podcast crew a 33.3%. And I think that goes evenly always. Let me give you a couple of examples and some viewpoints as to why Trisha Paytas was even mad in the first place, and why I think this situation is just ridiculous. Trisha Paytas, during the episode, brought up the fact that she doesn't get to pick out the employees that work for the H3 podcast. She brought this up because Ethan Klein recommended doing a segment, and it was during a segment about advice. In this segment, it was made up of fans submitting in inquiries and then having those inquiries responded to by either Trisha Paytas or Ethan Klein or both of them. Trisha Paytas did not like the dynamic. She said it was lazy and it was like YouTubers doing Q&As. Not only do I think this is extremely selfish and just goes to show that in Trisha Paytas, she doesn't really have an admiration for her followers. I know she said that in the video she just posted, but I really think when we really dissect what she said on this podcast episode, we see that she views herself higher, to a higher authority and to a higher degree than Ethan, than the podcast crew, and most importantly, to the fans that make this all possible. She said that she thought she didn't really fit in, which is a very valid argument. However, she had never brought this up before, and if she did, she hadn't made it prominent. She needed to discuss the fact, because the obvious answer to the question why don't I get say in which employees are hired is because the employees of the H3 podcast don't only work on the Frenemies podcast. They work on Off the Rails, they work on H3 Live, and they work on Frenemies. Frenemies is only a 30% amount of their workload, and if Trisha knew that, she doesn't. She simply can't view that. She's having issues viewing the fact that hiring employees just for Frenemies would be A, completely unnecessary, B, a waste of money, and C, it would be so disrespectful to the employees that already put in really hard work into the show. Not to mention, she really cares about money, and I say this because of a future point that I'm going to bring up. She cares about money, even if on the YouTube video she just posted she claimed not to. Why do I say this? Because in the podcast episode, a very prominent thing that she kept kept bringing up was the fact that Ethan took a 5% cut of the Frenemies podcast, which should be a 50-50 split. So if we do basic math, that means Trisha Paytas is getting a 45% of all the revenue that is brought in from the Frenemies podcast, while Ethan is getting 55% of all the revenue that is brought in from the Frenemies podcast. Trisha Paytas is also generously given a 50% cut of all the memberships. I know what you're probably thinking. Why is she getting that? She should be getting 30%. And you are absolutely right. Ethan gave her 50% of all the revenue brought in from members, I would say, as a sort of gift, because she only deserved 30%. Members don't only get exclusive access to the Frenemies podcast, they also get exclusive access to Off the Rails early, and they also get exclusive access to being able to comment on the H3 lives. These are both features that don't only apply to Frenemies, and Trisha getting a 50% cut of these is really over generous. This is just pure generosity coming from Ethan, giving her a 50% cut of something that she only attributes about 30% of the show. And as I mentioned previously, I don't really think that she attributes 50% of the show. Also, another point she brought up during her video is that she wanted to have the show on her YouTube channel, the Trisha Paytas YouTube channel, also known as the Blind Doll for MJ YouTube channel. And from my point of view at least, she has no experience running a podcast. She said that she would hire her own producers, hire her own crew. But then again, Trisha Paytas has had past experience running a podcast. She had one and it failed. She got dropped from the podcast and even went to the point as to canceling it. That podcast does not exist anymore. That is not only a testament to her podcast running abilities, but it just goes to show that she thinks of herself a bit higher than the other people. She thinks that she could run a podcast by herself when we have already seen that this is not true. She also severely disrespected the employees because when she said, "Why can't I get to choose who gets hired on the show?" it comes off as, I don't like these employees and I think I should get more say in which ones get picked. That way I can pick employees that I like, which is the obvious insinuation that you get from a comment like that, which just comes off as really disrespectful to the crew that puts really hard work and craftsmanship into the show. It just comes off as her being unappreciative for the sheer amount of work that they put into the show. This crew works overtime on this show. Another point that I wanted to bring up is that if she did hire Frenemies employees, the amount of money that she would get would be less. Does she realize that? If she hired her own employees for Frenemies, that would mean that her cut would probably be in the 30s, because hiring employees isn't cheap, especially in California. What she doesn't realize is that hiring employees isn't cheap. Hiring one employee on California salary is about $14 an hour, and I am assuming that Ethan pays them a little bit over that. So let's say he pays them around $25 an hour. Trisha Paytas does not realize that this could go one of two ways. A, her cut of the podcast goes down because she hired the employees, or B, the current employees would get a pay decrease because they would need to budget in other employees. Either way, this would mean that Trisha Paytas gets less money for the show, and I think money is one of the driving factors as to why she decided to quit the show, because it is one of the most prominent factors of discussion that happened during the show. Now, that is just my point of view on the story. Please, if you really want to, comment down below and I'll give my point of view on any further comments, because I'll try to respond to every single one, because I don't feel like I really did justice with this video. I usually script out my videos. This was not one of them. This is just me sitting down and recording my opinions for about 10 minutes. So if you guys really enjoyed this video and have any other output that you would like me to discuss, I would be more than happy to make a second video clarifying what I mean and clarifying why I really feel that this was a very selfish and uncalled for decision by Trisha Paytas. As in all of my videos, I'm sorry if I slipped up any terminology, because English is not my first language, and although I can speak the language pretty nicely, I don't know what certain words mean. So if I use the word incorrectly, just know that it was an honest mistake and I did not mean to do that. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day, and leave an input. What do you feel about this whole Frenemy situation? I absolutely love the show, which is why I am very crushed that it's ending. I was looking forward to purchasing some sweet Frenemies merch. I hope that still happens, because I would more than happily still buy a piece of merchandise. Anyways, yeah, that's all I wanted. That's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you all in my next video. Goodbye.